I still talk to people from pretty much every single job that I've had, even if it's just a cordial, like, "How's your mental health, queen?" Have you ever made genuine friendships at work?
I mean, yeah, this is why I'm here. I
Um,
mean, we met at work, so I am very and it extends outward too. I've met some other great people who I've had genuine friendships with.
I have, but interestingly, only in my very early career. So I have a handful of very close friends from the first job I had where when I was very entry level, and then also my last job that I have ever had, which is where I met y'all. So I there definitely was a period in the middle there where I guess I was at that phase of my career where it was hard to break out those friendships outside of the workplace.
Amber, what about you?
okay, well, I definitely can say that I have never worked anywhere where I didn't at least make one friend, because I was, like, hella intentional about it. I would say, hell yeah, I've made friends, at different jobs.
Welcome to the Culture Fit podcast, your weekly ish status check in on how you're feeling with where your life is at. We're on a journey to help you find alignment and confidently answer the question, what do you do for a living, without crashing out?
I'm Amber,
I'm Remington.
And I'm Elise.
and we are ex-coworkers turned friends.
And we've been in the rooms, read the fine print, and survived the culture.
And we're here to discuss how to reach your potential without sacrificing your dignity.
So we're gonna jump into this conversation about the ways in which so many of us like mistake our coworkers for family. Why that's dangerous, maybe. All right. So we're gonna start it off with a little bit of a testimony here. I pulled this off the internet because we've all felt it. So I guess this person's asking a great question, like, why is the we are like a family such a red flag? And I'm gonna read just a little bit of their statement and then let's talk about it, y'all. Okay. So this person says, like, I work at an amazing nonprofit that one of its values is people first. Okay. My friend asked me about it and said, what's it like working there? And I told them that it's great and that they are like a family. She told me that that is a bad thing. I had no intention to make it bad. The company is really big on making sure the employees have separation of work and life. But at the same time, we spend so much time together at work in small teams of about four that you get really close to your boss and your coworkers, and they start to really care about your life. All right. They also accept no as an answer. So I don't understand why it is bad to say we are like a family or more like an extended family, but we're still like a family. All right. So I'd love to know, like, what are y'all's thoughts about the we are a family? Sounds like this person has a really dope situation. But what are y'all's reactions?
So they're kind of like saying like, "Oh, why is this so bad?" Because they have a good experience with the whole family of it all.
Mm.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's great for them, first of all, like, I love that they have a great workplace situation where they feel like their, environment feels inclusive and they feel respected and, appreciated and all those good things. My main issue with the "we are family" of it all is, like, I don't need my family to be at work. Like, that is where things start to become too messy, right? Like, family is messy, and those dynamics are messy. And if I'm just trying personally, I don't know about you 2, but if I'm just trying to get the things that I need to get done, I'm really not also trying to operate within a family dynamic at work also. Like, that to me just seems like too much interpersonal relationship dynamics going on while I'm trying to get my work done, while I'm trying to also, have boundaries. But that's just me. I don't know about what you guys think, but personally, you can still be close with one another, but I don't think the "we are family" dynamic needs to be a part of that dialogue.
I think like every family that we forget, every family has a black sheep, right? And that black sheep often feels like disrespected or misunderstood, and I think that happens in the workplace too. I mean, that's why we have the Culture Fit podcast, right? Like, some people are not a culture fit, and so when you say we are a family, you're really, like, not leaning into the idea that maybe some people might not exactly plug into the culture or the ideology so seamlessly in the company, and where we are a family becomes an issue, right?
Yeah, and it begs the question, like, who is excluded from the family values, and when do the family values get leveraged against you? Like, that already happens in, like, intimate family relationships, so, like, imagine that when you're, yeah, throwing in the, um, complexities and dynamics of, "This person is responsible for my income," and everything like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, I agree, like, if this person is having a good time with it, like, I guess, like, you've found, like, a unicorn of a company, but on the other hand, it's also important, like, keep a look out of how that's maybe being leveraged negatively for other people.
Why is the "we are a family" workplace culture so harmful, especially for marginalized people?
Oh my god. Alright, there's so many things. I mean, I think if we're just honest, like, we're all existing within the structure of white supremacy. I'm just gonna freaking name that. And there are dynamics and rules under white supremacy about professionalism, about what's appropriate, about hierarchy, right? That are ingrained in us from the beginning because we're all swimming in this from the start. Um, I think a lot of folks really don't understand the dynamics of this is my boss. And then your boss is coming in with their own biases and their own thoughts and experiences around like different identities and experience and lived experience. So, you're layering all of these complex things that people are bringing to the workplace with them or bringing to communities with them. When you then put on the pressure of, we are a family. Some people's family is really authoritarian. Some people's family is really hardcore patriarchal, right? Like, you are really putting pressure on an individual to bring those rules and those, like, I think, cultural norms with them into an already complex, muddied, like, social experience.
Mhm.
That's what I think. I don't know.
And because of the power structure, like, it kinda goes back to what we were saying before, is like, there only is a few, maybe even just one person who defines what the family values are, and then the next question is, like, who's included and who's excluded from the family values, and oftentimes it's gonna be, um, yeah, historically marginalized people, and that's just, like, not fair. It perpetuates injustice that we have to survive through in our society anyway, so we should dream of a different way to not do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we wanna name historically marginalized, like, people of color, LGBTQ folks, people with disabilities, right? Like, there's also class dynamics, right? Like, there's also, like, gender dynamics, right? So, like, when we talk about this, I think a lot of people think of, oh, it's just race and maybe just black people, but it's like there's a lot of different historically marginalized groups that come under that umbrella that we that are bringing with them their identity and they're bringing their gifts with them to these spaces that are inadequately prepared to support them and treat them with dignity. I do want to add that part in there.
Mhm.
Remington, what are your thoughts? Because we yapped.
No, I was just listening and I was drinking all the tea because facts on that. I completely agree. And I also think, especially for marginalized people, it just perpetuates this continuous cycle of having to feel like you have to fit a mold consistently. It's nothing that, it's not anything new that marginalized people have to face and that we experience, but it's just this constant feeling like no matter what space that I'm in, whether it's school, whether it's my neighborhood, whether it's like I always have to succumb to somebody else's idea of what it means to be me rather than just being me and showing up for my gifts, my talents, what I can contribute. And it's this like tireless energy of I feel like I constantly have to keep doing things for other people, especially when you're in a work environment that's already centered around doing things for other people. So now you're working for other people, number one. And then on top of that, who you are and how you show up is for other people. And there's no rest in between to just be yourself. So it's just like where does the rest lie? Like where do I get to finally be me from the hours of 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. maybe, like so it's just this constant back and forth, and I think that's what people are really just tired of, and I think that's why a lot of people working remotely, that's why it sparks so much popularity, is because like I don't have to feel like I have to show up with this facade, right? I don't have to feel like I have to show up as somebody else. I could just be me and do the work I need to do, and then resign, right? Like resign to my safe space, my happy space, whatever it means to me. So that's what I
Right,
think.
you don't have to do a job and put a costume on and maintain
Right.
that costume, you just have to get to do the job, and it's like, well, actually, the job can get done without you knowing, like, controlling this person's life. I just think it puts an unfair amount of pressure on certain people, and yeah, we definitely wanna dream of a way to progress in our society, not regress or stagnate.
That
We're
part.
not code switching no more in 2026.
No.
Mm.
I was showing up as I am. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, well, I
Get
don't
out.
know. Get scram.
Scrap, yeah. So Pew Research Center projects that millennials and Gen Z will be roughly about 74% of the workforce in by 2030.
Deloitte's 2024-2025 global survey said that Gen Z and millennials have played a significant role in pushing boundaries of employer expectations over the last decade, with many willing to turn down assignments and employers based on personal ethics, including factors like negative environmental impact, non inclusive practices, and a lack of support for mental well being and work life balance.
Mm, I know that's right. And
Yeah.
then, according to the same Deloitte survey, when millennials believe their company has a high trust culture, they're 22 times more likely to want to work there for a long time compared to Gen Xers who are 16 times more likely, and baby boomers who are 13 times more likely. Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Future is bright.
Mhm.
Future is bright. I mean, I don't know, like what kind of emerges for me is this growing hope with millennials, shout out to us, and Gen Z that are saying, like, hey, I watched my parents suffer, I watched my older siblings or older aunties and uncles suffer. Um, Work taking a toll on their autoimmune systems or on their confidence, being abused at work, and being like, yeah, I'm not gonna engage in that kind of management experience. Um, this is giving me hope, like I also think as someone raising Gen Z and Gen Alpha in my own home, there's like a lot, like they're not taking a lot of stuff. Like they will look you in your face and be like, nah, and then give you a logical reason why. And you're like, you know what? Why am I taking this? You know what I mean? I don't know. What are y'all thoughts from the data and this conversation we're having?
We've also seen, like, the, um, boomer and above generations, like, reflect on their careers and with regret and be like, "Well, I wish I didn't, stress so much about work, all the things that, like, felt so important, like, were actually not important at all." And millennials especially are now, like, what we were talking about earlier, when we dream for more and we, by our from that desire to, like, wanna progress as a society towards a positive direction, we demand for more too, and then I guess that also kind of extends to Gen Z in a way too.
Mhm. Yeah. I also think too that I think we just start to realize more and more, especially as you get older and you see the examples before us, like nothing is promised. Nothing is promised. Like we work our whole lives to retire. That's the goal, right? But then once you grind, you hustle all through, and you put up with just the most disrespectful behavior, the most distasteful work environments, because all for the goal of being able to rest later. And then it's like you get to later and your body is broken down. You can barely move. Yeah, maybe you have some money saved in the bank, but you can't really fully enjoy these things because you're so mentally and emotionally drained from all that you endured from, unhealthy work environments, first of all. And then on top of that, who knows what kind of health issues that a lot, lie for you
Like,
later in the line, right?
right,
I mean,
not
it's
to
just weird
be
that.
yeah, yeah, like, what if, because not to be so dark or grim or whatever, but I do feel like we are more hyper aware of tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like, we have witnessed so much death and destruction and, like, um the kind of degradation of humanity in front of us, that like we do have this kind of spirit of like more living for the moment, and I think Gen Z has that too. But I do think, like, there is a lot of positivity out of it, because we do, in our living for the moment and the day, we're thinking more about the future than generations ever have before.
Yeah, millennials have lived through recessions and wars, and we've seen so much.
In a increased information age too, so we've had access to knowledge like no generation before us has had. So we actually do have a lot of, in terms of generational, like, swings, we have probably more power than any generation has had before in our own hands.
Rise up.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's like once people get a taste of what is possible and once conversations are opened up, like good luck trying to put the cat back on the bottle. You know what I mean? It's like, people before they're exposed to inclusivity and the real promise of that, or work-life balance and the real promise of that, it's just a dream, right? But then once you get a taste of the dream and realize, oh, these things can be done in healthy ways and in ways that actually inspire productivity, that and then you try to take it away, people are like, yeah, no. I was more productive actually when I was able to have a life and be able to do my work at the same time, or whatever that looks like for people. But ultimately, it's like you're gonna have a hard time moving forward, especially with generations to come, trying to convince people that, there can't be peace and progress, and there can't be peace and productivity and peace and, work, right? It's just sorry. We already did it and it's shown to work. So,
I also actually do think, like, to bring it back to the topic of community, the people who are overwhelmingly like gunning for a return to work culture, and not to make this about just like remote work versus in-person work, but community does kind of tie into that very heavily. But because those demographics have been affected by, you know, they have been affected in their own way by systemic issues that don't allow them to seek community outside of this structure. Whereas like women or other people have more, like, we're more attuned to seeking genuine connections, and so we don't crave that like third space of the office, because we are already like kind of have the understanding about the importance to find it elsewhere. So I think like that then taps into like the male loneliness epidemic and everything. But this is for like what we're talking about is like, or what we advocate for affects men in a positive way too, because we want everyone to find their community, and it's where we're pointing out like it doesn't, it's not healthy for anyone to like take that from just the people who you make money from or make money alongside. Of course, you can find great friendships that way, but like that really cannot be your sole source of community.
I think that's a really great point, Elise. It really ties back into community and proximity and the role of proximity in community. Um, a lot of these folks, they don't have to build the skills because they are depending on an environment to create that connection for them. It's like, "Oh, I'm Tom, and I'm gonna bump into Carol at the water cooler to talk about the Super Bowl commercials. Ha ha ha." And it's like, bro, like, you wouldn't have ever talked to Carol at any point ever, or even tried to get to know who the hell she is anywhere else because you don't have the skills or the acumen to approach people and or the curiosity even to learn about someone else. So I just really love that. I want to use that as a segue into our next question, if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah.
Like, really
No,
think, okay.
continue.
I was really enjoying what we were talking about actually.
Yeah.
No.
Why would that's crazy. Segue? What the?
Right. Like, okay, so like the folks who don't know how to build community, right? Like, what is some advice that we have for people, or some tips or some skill things that they can work on to help them in building community that's not work, right? One more thing. Can I add one more thing? When we say we are a family, the people who rely on proximity for their community are the ones that are holding everyone else hostage. I do wanna add that, right? The people who, like, really lean into the "we are the family," definitely holding people hostage, so I want us to speak to them specifically. So anyway, advice that you have around, like, helping people build community, the skills to build community, what advice do y'all have?
That's a good question. I think, um, well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I think that for a lot of people, they get nervous about forming community because there are different personality types that are in play, right? Like, some people are really extroverted, have no problem initiating discussions with people. There are some people who are really people's people, but they suck at small talk. I'm one of those people, actually. I hate small talk. Like, I can't. I get so I can't do it. I can feel myself if I have to talk about the weather with you, I'm out. Just don't even bring it up. We can just stand there, honestly. But so I think that the first, major thing is to just like go where you feel like it's natural. Like, you can initiate conversations with people, sure, but you don't have to stay there just for the search of community. Like, if you feel like something's not connecting, you can shift somewhere else, right? Like, and I think outside of work, more importantly, just look for places and spaces where you feel like you can authentically be yourself, right? Like, um, think about the ways in which you want to show up in the world or in ways that you enjoy showing up in the world. Maybe it's through activities, hobbies. Maybe you have a super niche obsession, like you love, I don't know, playing cards or something. And you want to go, maybe they have a playing card club or something where they do different types of card games and through shared interests and mutual interests. I mean, we've heard it all before. It's what they taught to us in school, but it is true. Like, we forget the art of really fostering our interests as we get older. When we're kids and when we're teens, it's like kind of forced upon us a little bit, like, oh, let's join these clubs and let's join these things because that's how we meet people. And there is truth to that, like, but we forget to prioritize those things as we get older because life happens, right? So it's almost like returning to your roots in a little bit and finding what brings you joy and finding, similarities with other people in those same ways. So that's what I would say.
That's exactly what I was gonna say as well, is there's nothing that helps you make friends better or find community as a byproduct is by knowing yourself first, knowing what you love, like, what are you excited about? Literally, that's how you make, like, meet that's how you make genuine connections, is knowing what you're passionate about. And like, that's why you can actually make good friends at work if you bring, or if there are certain things that you're excited about. Like, I know so many people who've made close friends because they're a fan of the same artist, even like it could be start off as something as simple as that, but like, be a three-dimensional person and know what your dimensions are. That's the first step to being like, okay, like, you know, getting all the hierarchies of need met.
I love that. We should quote that. Know what your dimensions are. I love that. That's a quote for real.
Being curious, like, genuinely curious about other people, right? Like, when I was becoming friends with y'all, I was like, "Oh my god, they're so cool. I just wanna know about their life." Like, I want to know about like, what's your star sign? You know what I mean? I want to know what's your favorite color? Like, what is your favorite thing to eat? Like, where do you like to spend your time, when you're not here, trapped here with us? You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that for me make it easy. I become a detective and not, to like hold something over someone later because some people are do that. I become a detective because I'm genuinely interested in what other people, believe and think and their choices and the way that they live their life. I think if you become a little bit more curious about other people in a humanizing way, then you can bridge the gap between your awkwardness toward a meaningful, lasting friendship with folks and finding your community as well.
Yeah. And I also will, add to that too, Amber. And I will say that sometimes it's easier to form community when you have somebody familiar by your side, right? Like you can look for new community and bring, that one person that has your back. Like if I have a best friend who lives in the same city as me and I'm like, listen, I would love to go to this event. I don't want to go by myself. I need you to come with me, right? Like just to have a safety backup person to be there. Cause sometimes like our truest selves come out around the people we're obviously the most comfortable with. And so when they're there, it almost gives you that extra bit of safety to be like, okay, I can go work the room now because I know that there's somebody here. If all else fails, like they got me, I got them, right? So I think that being genuinely curious about people and then also having somebody who is there to support you through that journey, you only need one if it makes you feel better. So I definitely I love that sentiment for sure. Hey everybody, I'm Remington Bennett. I am the founder and lead career coach of The New Ladder, and I'm giving you the tips and tricks to get out of the 9 to 5 corporate grind and build a career path that works for you, not against you. So if you're interested in any sort of career coaching that has to do with a non-traditional career path, I'm your person. And so what we're talking about in this segment of the Ladder Lab is work that is not your community, but you still need one. So exactly like what does it mean to have community? We've been discussing that this whole episode so far, which I've been really loving, and I hope you guys have been loving too. But it's true. You do need a sense of community, especially at work, right? Like work is still an extension of our day-to-day lives. It's still what is a huge majority of our lives. It's not something that's isolated from our experience. It's what is that show? The one on Apple TV. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Shoot, it got the awards. Is it Severance? Anyway, it's fine. We if I got that wrong, just let me know. But it's not an isolate. You don't get to just choose, okay, I have a life at work, and then that's it. And then I have a life at home, and then that's it. A lot of these worlds blend together, and you don't want to feel like you don't have community in one part of your world that really takes up a lot of your time. So but the problem is, as we've been discussing, it's hard to often assess when community is actually genuine, and what it means to have an actual. Oh, my people are saying it is severance. Okay, cool. What it means to have a real community, and when you're looking for community, what are the red flags that you need to look out for to know whether something is genuine or whether it is a disingenuous situation that will end up working against you, right? So I'm going to break all of these red flags and green flags down. So let's start with the red flags. Okay, red flags that I think we need to start avoiding. And these are usually signs that you're forming false community. So one is when colleagues or managers look for any intel on your personal life. And this can come through so many different ways. It can come through sneaky ways, blatantly overt, asking you questions about your personal life. I've been in situations and work environments where people will just straight up, it will be my first few days of the job. And they'll ask me, so tell me about your relationship. Whoa, what? I'm sorry. Do you even know my last name? We just met 24 hours ago. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I think that, sometimes people can think it's endearing because it's an effort to really bridge the gap between stranger and familiar really quickly. So it feels like, oh, I can open up around this person. No, actually, it makes me feel like this is a threat. This is a threat to my life, and I don't feel comfortable because now you're trying to barge in on areas that are not for you, right? But those can often be some tricky less identifiable ways of trying to sneak in community where there actually really isn't any. They could also follow you on social media platforms unexpectedly, right? I think that the digital age has allowed us to really get to know one another in ways that we haven't been blessed to do so before. But I also think it has made some people feel like they have some sort of ownership over our lives and that they are able to tap into those sections of our lives without any sort of earned trust. So people will just kind of find you, coworkers, managers, directors, whoever it may be, find you on platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Okay. Places where you feel like that's where you're supposed to be your authentic self, connect with friends and family, people who you know and trust. And all of a sudden, you see this follower request come through and you look at the username and you're like, who's this person? You go to the profile, it's no one you actually know, it's a colleague or it's a coworker. Things like that, that bridges that creates this kind of false sense of I really want to get to know you, but in turn it's really just people trying to be nosy. And I don't like that and you shouldn't either. So that to me is a red flag. Another one is actually this is equally as sneaky because sometimes what people will try to do is share information about themselves personally to start to open that gap a little bit sooner between you and them. So or to close the gap sooner between you and them. So even if you're not sharing any information, they may share information with you and you can easily dodge that by just, smiling and nodding and keeping it cute and pushing on. You don't have to give them anything that you don't want to give them, and that's on that. So, community green flags to me, these are a few signs that you can trust the people that you're working with, or how you're able to spot the people that you should or want to trust openly. So, one of the things that I would say is when coworkers establish time and distance to assess connection. I love this because when people are rushing to be close to you, that's an immediately as I mentioned, an immediate red flag to me that it may not be as authentic as they think it is. But when I'm in a working situation or in a work environment, or when I know other people who have been in a work environment where they've been round people where at first it starts exactly as it is a co-worker relationship, right? There's no prying into personal lives. There's no questions being asked that are past a work theme or work topic. It's just simply about we're getting work done together in a team fashion. That's how I start to know that things are probably unraveling organically. And then over time, as we spend more time together, as we start to operate in similar circles often, more and more information starts to come out organically. That's how you start to know that people are genuinely interested in getting to know you because they've taken the time to do so and they allow time for you to be vulnerable with them in a way that's comfortable for you, right? Um, so another thing, right, that we've talked about a lot in this episode so far is it's not forced, it's organic. And that's what I just mentioned too. Oftentimes, you can tell when something is forced. I'm one of those people that when I'm in a networking event or when I'm at a networking event or I'm around people where the goal is to exchange information, make new connections, expand your network, it's really easy and obvious to tell who's just there to get something from you versus who genuinely wants to know you. And Amber brought up a great point earlier on about, genuinely being curious about the people that you're talking to because you actually want to know about them versus you want to get something from them. And you can just tell when things feel forced. It's this energy of like, it's not flowing, it's almost working against each other. But when it is flowing and it is organic, it's almost like all the right pieces of conversation come into integrate together to make this kind of really unique connection that feels like, okay, I actually know this person and this person knows me, right? So trust those feelings of not being forced. Trust those feelings inside. Does it feel good to be around these people? Or does it feel like I'm putting on an act, a facade, right? Those are all things that I think you should keep in mind when you are at work and you're looking for community when it feels authentic, when it feels like it's rushed, right? Um, and then so I would say questions to take with you is when do you think is the right time to invest in community, right? Like when is it the right time to build community? Is it right away? Is it 6 months down the line? The answer changes for everybody and what kind of community changes for everybody. But I think ultimately, I think it comes down to, what does community mean to me? And what do I want to get from this community, right? And I think that's a question that we should always take with us, no matter what room we walk into, whether it's work, whether it's school, whether it's new friendship or social circles, right? Like, what is it that I want from this community? And having that understanding will help you paint a path forward of what it is to be in, or what it is to be a part of a circle of people in a way that actually benefits you and them, and not just to say like, hey, I fit in, right? So anyway, that's just a little bit on what I think the red and green flags are when it comes to creating community. And listen, at the end of the day, you can only get it right. Maybe you get it wrong once, but you may learn from those lessons, and then you get it right the next time. Okay, so power to you, power to everything.
Thank you, Remington. That was so helpful and like insightful.
Yeah, also, like, the part about the, social media stalking, I think people don't realize, don't let your coworkers follow you. Anyway.
I love that you mentioned Severance as well because I love that show so much, and I always think about that when I'm thinking about, like, yeah, building a life with dignity.
Our segment is the back channel, where we're gonna reframe, really, you know how when you hear something on an all hands and then you're just like, to the homie, like, "Oh my god, girl, did you hear that?" This is the feeling of our segment. We're gonna give you a tiny dose of magic so that you can move with purpose and not panic through these situations.
And just a reminder, I'm Elise, that's Amber, and we're your friends from I Love You Bitch, where we're creating and modeling a softness practice for high achieving, burnt out women, which we both are. So let's talk about now what we'd like to call the breakup with workplace intimacy. Amber, tell me what that means.
All right, workplace intimacy is, I really think it's this blurring of the lines around, you know, what kinds of relationships are appropriate at work. And I'm not talking about like somebody sleeping with their boss. I'm talking really about like, how do you create relationships with the people at your job that aren't tied to like guilt and shame and feelings of urgency and abuse, right? Like, we want to break this whole feeling that I owe someone something that they have not earned or do not deserve in the workplace. That just because someone is my supervisor or superior, it does not give them the right to then leverage that or weaponize that relationship against me. So that's the breakup with workplace intimacy.
That
Oh.
totally makes sense. And we always talk about this and are advocating for severing in a way, just to call back also to the TV show Severance, but we want to sever. We think it's more healthy to sever those expectations that you might have on certain people. And like, I think you and I have both done that in our careers. When we talk about reframing our own expectations around what we get from the intimacy at work, is that something you've always known, Amber, and always take it into your career, or is that something that you had to learn the hard way maybe at some point in your career?
Yeah, I think that's something that I've had to learn the hard way. I think there are moments where you do get burned at work because you're like, I put my trust in this individual, or I wanted to really believe that this person was a better person than they actually were, or that we aligned on certain philosophies around, humanizing other people in the workplace. I've definitely been burnt on workplace intimacy. I've definitely seen workplace intimacy weaponized against people. So people have a relationship at work and then outside of work. And then the fun that happens outside of work leaks into the workplace as a maybe jokes about someone drinking or things like that, right? And that you're like, dude, like, I thought y'all were at happy hour, right? Like, you shouldn't be making jokes about that here because this is our 9 to 5. So really, or things that people have told each other privately being shared in a public space and then everyone's laughing about it. I think, we really need to rethink what we're willing to share. And so I have witnessed those kinds of things. I've experience like the disappointment of, you know, um, just like, oh man, I thought we were aligned on that. Right. And then being like, I think maybe I need to pull back. How about yourself? Like, what is that like breaking up with workplace intimacy or understanding the dangers of workplace intimacy? Is that something that you've also learned? Or how have you learned that?
I think for me personally, like I've definitely witnessed those things as well and been like had situations where I've identified early, like when someone's trying to like get close to me for the wrong reasons. I feel like I have a good sense for that. Remington like kind of shared a little bit about that earlier as well. But I also like just personally am like a very guarded person naturally, and so I think that really has worked in my favor in the workplace because I don't really I'm not that I'm social, but I also just like love being alone. So I've never like entered spaces seeking like friendships or I'm not the type of person who really seeks validation from the people around me, which has actually been kind of a blessing for that because I'm like I'm not really here to, make those intimate relationships, and I try also not to have expectations of people, which I don't know if that's like super healthy, but it's also something that has like made it easy for me to avoid like misplaced intimacy from the wrong environments.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, yeah, I don't expect someone to behave in a certain way or owe me anything. And so I'm going to carry myself that way and just manage what I can control. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I've always been in a role that rallies the troops and pulls people together. So like
And also you're just naturally someone that like people really gravitate towards you and you have like this open arm thing about you. I feel like you yeah, like you're very like welcoming and people would be so surprised to know that like sometimes you don't want that because I'll just to be real with you from the outside, you really like make people feel like you want to be their friend.
all right. I would say thank you.
Is
I
that
think
I don't even think that was a compliment.
dang. You're like, this is who you are. I think I think I think I've been fighting that my whole life. I'm not gonna lie. I think that I provide safe spaces wherever I go, right? That is just what is
Just your
necessary.
nature. That's
What
like
is
what you're inherent to who you are as a person.
absolutely. Now, just because I provide a safe space to others doesn't necessarily mean like everyone knows me, right?
No,
Eh,
totally.
Yeah,
And I think you do a really good job of like keeping yourself guarded in those situations, but then you still have this very inviting exterior that um you could afford. You don't have to make everyone feel safe. Like I would love like as your friend to see you release yourself of that expectation of yourself. Like you don't have to make everyone feel safe because the only person, Amber, that you have to make feel safe is you. And I know you're aware of that. I just want to say it out loud.
yo, we are modeling therapy here, folks. I appreciate.
Why have a best friend if they can't be your therapist as well?
That's so freaking true, man. Okay, well, I have one more question, like thinking about, and we'll make it quick, but like thinking about, what spiritual and healing work would help people dismantle the internalized systems in them so that they can take Remington's really great advice. Because I think in her segment, she shared so many awesome understandings of the red flags, but then the green flags. So, like, what are some of the ways that people can go on this spiritual journey for themselves, or do the healing or shadow work so that they can take the advice that she shared? Your thoughts?
To be like the best person for the people around you too and be a great community member, you do have to look inward first.
Yeah. I would add journal or have some sort of reflective practice, right? I think a lot of people are told who they are. So to that point, like at least like people, lean on the television or social media or where they grew up or what people have told them about, how they show up as their identity to define who they are. Really journal and like question the who am I in there, but also journal and reflect back on how you've gotten to be friends with folks and what did you learn from that experience. Really meditate, maybe do some yoga, maybe do some challenging yourself to try something new so that you might learn something new about yourself. So if you're like, I don't like art, like go to a pottery class, right? Or if you're not good at sports, go shoot some baskets. Like really step outside of your comfort zone because then that helps you find who you are. I think a lot of people are like, don't know how to actually find that person.
And one time, actually, Amber, you told me like give back the things you don't have to hold, and that's so true
Mhm.
in an environment like a workplace. Like you might see all these holes, and I've definitely learned this the hard way in my career, but like you don't have to be the one to fill the holes that somebody else made, like yeah, like I then had to like carry this mantra through my career of like it's not my company, not my problem, like not to be a bad teammate, but like not shouldering the burden of like things that I actually have no control over at the end of the day, and if they don't care about them, why am I?
Mm.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's real.
Amber with the wise words consistently.
Listen,
Consistent.
Mhm.
listen. We have to have a whole I think we'll have a whole episode on that. I think though we should I don't wanna go too deep down the rabbit hole, but like for many Black women in the workplace, real talk, they're expected to mammy other people through their existence at
Mm,
work. Do you know what I
mhm,
mean? Which is a role that at my previous job I did, that's a role that I've done in other places, is be people's mammy for them in the workplace. Like, make sure that their little eggshell of feelings aren't hurt so that I have to deliver a message a certain way or I have to come off a certain way so that's palatable because the fragility of their own lack of confidence is the best way I can say it, really shines through and it's like weaponized against you. So, yes to that, Elise, like I really appreciate that you see me and that you're challenging me, but also, like, I do wanna say the reason behind that is
You're
also
often put in these situations where like you don't have a choice.
yeah, and I would say not just me, lots of Black women,
Yeah,
lots
yeah,
of
yeah.
lots of women of color in general, or, folks with a very visible marginalized identity are put in these positions where they have to hold this inappropriate workplace intimacy with others.
Mm.
mhm, mhm. Or else you are outcasted or seen as hard to deal with, hard to work with if you don't comply. Yeah. Mhm. Oh my god.
Okay, well go ahead, Remington.
No, I was just gonna bring it to, I don't know, like, about y'all, but I feel like I even learned a lot more just from us 3 talking about community and so many of the things that I felt that have been on my mind or just even, things that people have told me, clients have told me about their experience in the workplace. I just feel like we brought life to those stories, so, you know what? I love us for that. I do.
I love
Hell
how
yeah.
so what
Yeah.
I would love for each of us to just share, like, what's one thing that we learned?
For me, I would say honestly, like you both brought up some really great points about feeling like you are like there's a responsibility on you to carry community in whatever shape or form, whether that's your literal role, which Amber, I know that was your role in a lot of spaces and places, or if you just feel like this like pressure to have to create community because you don't want to feel alone or left out. And I just feel like there should be a reminder for everybody that you don't owe anybody anything. Like, you also don't owe yourself community if you don't need it. Like, that's the other thing I want to say. Like, I know we've been talking about community this whole conversation, but if you're the type of person that just wants to go to work and wants to leave work, you are more than welcome to do it. You don't have to create
100%.
community. Like, you could just go to work, clock out, go home, and have your community be at other spaces, and that's perfectly normal and okay, and honestly creates really strong boundaries for you. So, just listen to yourself and what it is you need, right?
Yeah, I say, always ask yourself, "What am I here for?" And then my biggest takeaway, honestly, or is like something that I will continue to ask myself in any space really, is this proximity or is this community? That's a very important thing to like be aware of as you're navigating relationships in general. Like, so yeah, is it community or is it proximity?
I'll say this, Remington, your like red flag, green flag, the one that stuck out to me most that I'm gonna remember and take with me for the rest of my time here, which is a learning that I've tucked away and was like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, coworkers can't follow you because they weaponize your social media and what you post and the things that you say on social. They weaponize that against you. And so, um, maybe I'll catch you in a follow or a LinkedIn connect after I leave the organization, but we are not connecting while I'm there.
Mm. Yeah.
Lesson learned. Great point. Thank you for that.
Anytime. Listen, it happens to the best of us, the worst of us, all of us. And luckily, if it's you, none of us. So if you fit into that category, congratulations.
But this has been an amazing conversation, ladies. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your insights. I love talking with y'all. And honestly, like I'm not the type of person who makes friends at work. Like I never go into a job like trying to make new friends, but I'm definitely glad I made you too.
See?
Yes,
I'm
same. So, I just want to share a closing thought challenge for our viewers. What's one thing that you've been outsourcing to work, belonging, purpose, adult friendship structure, right? And what would it look like to get it somewhere else, somewhere that can't fire you, right? So, I do want to challenge all of our viewers to really maybe journal about that. If you have an epiphany that we would love to hear it, right? Like, please send it to us. Drop it in the comment section.
That is a great question. And also, please come back next episode because we're going to be discussing fun employed, underemployed, overqualified. Pick a struggle. How to keep your dignity when the market is disrespectful and your nervous system is fried. Practical steps and honest feelings. How to remain silly and brave while you search. So please come back for that one. It's going to be a great one. I can't wait to have that conversation with y'all.
We're speaking from real lived experience, people.
Yes, indeed. Whether it's ours or someone else's, it's real. It's all real, okay?
Yeah.
And please, we wanna hear from you too. So, like, be sure to follow all of us on our individual, platforms. You can follow me, Remington Bennett, at The New Ladder on all platforms, and leave, any questions that you have, and I hope to answer them too.
Yes. Also, sign up for her amazing coaching. Like, don't play yourself. Okay.
Yes, if you have any sort of questions about how to navigate your career path in a way that doesn't fit into a traditional structure, whether it means you don't want a corporate 9 to 5, whether it means you want to create your own business, or you just want to identify something that feels more like yourself, hit me up. I'm your person. There we go.
Boom, boom, boom.
Where do we find you guys?
You can find me and Elise at I Love You Bitch, which the CH is two X's, right? So we'll have it displayed on the screen. We are on TikTok and other platforms. We will be building a community as well. So stay tuned for that. Lots of fun things to help you heal through corporate trauma, help you heal through the burnout. For now, you are just going to be able to engage with us in this real amazing practice of what does it look like to model healing, and finding your joy and peace, especially during these like insane times. At least did I leave anything off the table?
No, I think that's great. Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Please subscribe, follow us where you're listening to us now so you can be notified for the next episode. And we will see you next time.
We love y'all. Thank you.